Alrighty, hello and welcome. This is BP Productions Podcast, where we share life, share stories, and encourage others. I am your host, Bruce Pineda, and I'm super excited to be bringing you Season 2, Episode number 4 of 7 of the BP Podcast. And I appreciate those of you who have been here since day 1, Season 1, Episode 1. I really appreciate it because this thing has grown, and I'm super excited for the opportunity to share my life and share stories and encourage you. I really appreciate it. Guys, this will only be found on youtube.com. Why? Again, I want to grow that as much as I can because I just want to do it genuinely. And I don't want to explore any other podcast platforms right now because I would like to grow this thing naturally. All right. So, and also my Instagram, I always plug this in at the end of the show, but I think I'm going to plug it in now, is bruce.pineda, BRUCE.PINEDA, in case you want to follow me. I am more active on there, in case you want to keep in touch with me and everything. So, yes, I would appreciate that a lot so we can talk to each other. All right. So, I'm going to do this podcast a little bit differently. I basically wrote out something that I want to talk about, and I'll mention it in 1 second. But I wrote it out in a way that I'm kind of going to be reading, but not at the same time reading. We're just going to try this out, see how it goes. But I've titled it, Let's Talk About Forgiveness. And that word forgiveness, right? So we'll come back to that in a minute. But we got to do the recap of the week, right? Because that's important. So the recap of the week first, and then we will talk about forgiveness. All right. So hope you're doing well. And again, if you're new to this, what I do every week is I go through the recap of the week. And I have these questions that I just go through and kind of look back at the week and explore just different avenues of examining myself, right? And I hope you're doing the same thing when I ask these questions. I hope you're asking yourself the same questions. That way you can answer them yourself and you can look back on your life and see what you can improve on, see what you can be better at, and just kind of evaluate, right, of how life's going. So here we go. All right, recap of the week, and here it is. So what did I accomplish this week? Something I accomplished this week, and I was really focusing on this, is that consistency. Like, I was super determined to get this episode out today, Monday. I wanted to be consistent with that, and I knew that if I just took a break, because like in the morning I didn't really feel like it. Like it took me some extra strength to just plan this out, and my mind wasn't very good in the morning, and I wanted to get this up here, and I knew I wanted to be determined. So I can definitely, put a victory on that because I think consistency is super important if you want to get anything done, and I think we did that today. So I'm happy about that. What lessons did I learn this week? Something that came into my mind and my heart when I was going through this is that when you have the opportunity to help somebody, help them. Right, even if it takes away from your time, it's just super worth it, right? It's just super worth it, and that can be applied to really everything, right? So like, let's say that there's somebody at the hotel that needs help carrying something, but I'm super busy on the computer, especially if it's one of my coworkers, because what I'm referring to is that sometimes the housekeepers will have to carry these heavy bags upstairs, right? And it's full of linen and new towels, linen and towels and things that go in the room. Anyways, they get heavy, super heavy, those bags. And so when I see some of the girls carrying those, I can definitely go over there and help them out, take a break from my little area on the front desk and go ahead and do that. So that's just one example. It could be anything. As little as, a kid needs their shoe tied, but you're in the middle of coaching, stop, take a break for, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, tie the kid's shoes, and, you're good to go. So little to big, whatever it is, you can definitely take care of that. What day was my favorite day and why? You know what? I think today actually was my favorite day. I had a really good session at the Skyhawks. I was at doing a basketball session. I was about to say the school, but I'm not so sure if I should necessarily say that. And it was a really good day. I got to teach basketball, and I had the kindergartners, and they're very energetic, enthusiastic, and they just need a bit of leadership, and I was able to provide that, and that was really cool to do. So I appreciate that. Got to catch up with my boss, one of my bosses, and also got to catch up with an old friend of mine, which is really cool, really sweet. So We might get into that later, but it was a good day. All right. How did I make time for myself? Well, today and tomorrow I'm off from my hotel job, so I'm kind of making this today my own day to kind of just relax and chill. But also tomorrow the same thing, but I guess that would count as for next week's. Sorry, excuse me. So before that, probably taking a little time. Like I went to go visit my mom yesterday, and that's kind of my time right there because I get to hang out with my family. Take my mind off of work. Get to hang out with my sisters, laugh about whatever, and I enjoy those moments. So that would be my time. What was I most grateful for this week? I think last week I said opportunity, and I'm gonna match that. It's a great thing, right? Opportunity. We have opportunity to do things every day. It's just a matter of making that time and prioritizing that time and making sure, that you get the things that you want to do, the most important things, and you get them done, right? Like this whole past week, like instead of what I do in the morning is I get up, right? I get up, turn off my alarm, and I head to my room, to get ready. But I usually like put on music and I just, play music, and which is great, right? I love playing anything from worship to something that gets me pumped up. But this time around, like one morning, my heart was feeling really heavy, and I was like, I just need to hear God's word. So I put on a pastor. Shout out to Craig Groeschel, just in case you didn't hear that right. But super great pastor. I never met the man, but I've learned a lot from him. So there's that. Anyways, but I just put on him in the morning, and I've been listening to him throughout the week, and it kind of changed my perspective and my mornings, and kind of gets you in a really good mood. So I've been doing that. So I'm grateful for that opportunity, right? What do I want to do more of next week? What do I want to do more of? Let's go with consistency. I really want to be more consistent. And instead of waiting and wasting the morning and then finally getting on this podcast, like I want to be proactive and say, okay, hey, at this time I'm gonna jump on this and I'm gonna do it, right? At this time I'm gonna do this. This time I'm gonna do that. So I really want to be more consistent of that. What do I want to do less of this upcoming week? What do I want to do less of? That one, I'll be honest here. I want to give less. I want my heart to feel less heavy. And how do I do that? By not worrying about the things that don't really matter, right? So I've battled a lot this past week, and I might mention it here in this podcast. I'm just trying to see where the stories go. But my heart was super heavy this week with a past, with a friend of mine. And with that, I was worrying a lot. And I told you guys not to worry, but here I am worrying. So let's not do that. And let's do less of that this week by trusting God, by knowing who God has made us to be, and following through with that. All right. How can I improve next week? How can I improve? Be more consistent and just keep it going, keep it rolling, right? Study harder, plan better, and just give it a full go. Give it a full go for sure. What am I looking forward to this week? Honestly, I haven't been to one school in particular. It's the one downtown, and I haven't seen those kids in a while. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I get to go there tomorrow, so super happy about that. And just thankful for the opportunity. Thank you to God for the opportunity, for sure. So, yeah, guys, that's the recap of the week. I try to do that as quick as possible because I don't want to eat too much of you guys' time. But I have to get through this, and I love you guys, and I thank you for the opportunity for letting me share my life with you. And I hope, again, that you're answering the same questions, right? And you're looking, examining yourself. And I might even type the questions in the description. Give me a thumbs up on the video if you want me to go ahead and do that for you. And I'll definitely write out these questions and then give you, an opportunity to, write them down yourself. And it's good self-reflection. And I'm super glad that I'm able to do that. I've never done that before, but it's really helped me out a bit. So anyways, guys, so let's talk about forgiveness. That's what we're going to go into, okay? So like I said, it's going to be a little different, but just bear with me. Tell me what you think, and we'll do this together. All right. I didn't really wink there. I kind of blinked both eyes, but okay. So there's a commercial. I'm not sure if you guys seen it, right? There's a commercial that it has people sitting down on couches, and the moderator asks the question. He says, what are some hard things to say? And the people start like thinking, right? And they start thinking, okay, well, what are some hard things to say? And most of them are non-English speakers or people that struggle speaking English. And they start pronouncing these words, these difficult words that are hard to pronounce in English. And then the moderator goes, well, no, that's not what I meant. I meant like, what are some hard things to say? Basically from the heart, right? And that shocks the person because they're like, wow, well, sorry, my nose itched. Let me think that for a second. And so they start going through these people and they start asking them this, and these words come out. And these are the words that stuck with me. One of them was, it's hard to say, I forgive you. It's hard to say, I'm sorry. And it's definitely hard to say that I was wrong. And those three things I think we all struggle with. I know I do. I've struggled with that a lot, right? I forgive you. You know, it's hard to tell somebody that you forgive them, especially if they hurt you. I'm sorry. It's hard to say sorry because maybe you're convinced you're super right. But at the same time, maybe you know that, wow, you know, I'm wrong, but I just want to be right. And I was wrong, right? And that's the other thing, that I was wrong. For some of us, it's hard to admit that we were wrong, right? So I forgive you. I'm sorry, and I was wrong. So I did a little bit of research, right? And it came out to that 69% of Americans hold grudges. And this was coming from a survey done by Trupilot. And that's a lot. That's a bunch of bitter people. Think about that. 69%. That's 69% of Americans. And that's only in America. I can imagine the rest of the world, right? But basically, a lot of people hold grudges, right? And we don't need a survey to tell us that, right? We look at our families. We look at our friends. We look at people that we know. You know, people talk, and you can hear that most of the time people are known to hold grudges or hold something against another person. And with that, I think people can become really bitter. I know I have before. You can become really bitter if you hold grudges and you hold things against somebody else. And maybe what that person did was wrong, right? Maybe you feel you have a right to be angry. You feel you have a right to be sad. And those are all true things. But at the end of it, holding grudges, you end up becoming a really bitter person. And I think that's the truth. So I know that's the truth. So, all right. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Let's see. So why is forgiveness important? Why are we discussing this? And who are we forgiving? And why do I have to be forgiven, right? So I want to share a story with you guys, right? So high school, sophomore year, I met this girl. Her name was Mary. I'm not sure if I was supposed to say that, but chances of her watching this video are basically slim to none. Anyways, she became someone that I was infatuated with, and we ended up dating, right? So we got to know each other. You know, I met her in, I think it was like a math class, and like right away, like I just, went all Bugs Bunny eyes on her. And, I ended up talking with her. We ended up, hanging out, and then I eventually asked her to be my girlfriend, and that was it, right? And everything was well. We hung out at lunchtime. We sat together. We talked about a lot of things. We texted all the time. And then we, even after school, before our parents would pick us up, we'd find each other and hang out for a little bit. So that was really cool. Again, I was infatuated with this girl. I really liked her. I don't know if you would say love, because, at that time, there's so much emotion going on that I don't know necessarily if I knew what love was back then, to the full extent that I do now. But I really cared about her, and so this was it, right? Having the time of my life, I was on cloud 9 with that. Well, that lasted about half of the school year, and during that time, my mom told me that we were moving to Washington State. And so after about half a year of knowing this girl and talking with her and, being her high school boyfriend, so much for that, sophomore year, we don't have a car. So, we can't do much together, but, at school we're together all the time. And so my mom informed me that. So that was a bummer at the time. But I knew that I was leaving and I had to say goodbye. And we agreed to stay together. As crazy as that sounds, we did. And that we promised each other that we would talk and communicate as much as we could. Well, again, remember, put yourself in my younger shoes, okay? I'm like this young kid, I'm talking with this girl that I really like. So I'm believing everything she's saying, right? We're going back and forth. I have, no doubt in my mind that things are going well. All right. Well, to my surprise, a week after leaving school and on our way to Washington, I received a message saying that she wasn't up for dating anymore and that she liked me a lot, but it wasn't going to work out. Now, I'm paraphrasing this because this happened years ago, but I remember that saying, I remember that text saying some really hurtful things, and I can't recall what it was, which kind of bums me out because I really like to share that with you, but it hurt my heart, and I just remember being so hurt by those messages. It was really hurting. So that happened, and it caused heartache in me. Things that I thought were there, it just like flipped around the whole opposite, and it made me start to question who I was and what was this all about. What do I do, right? I just was infatuated with this girl. Things are going great. I moved to Washington. All of a sudden, get the text, hey, things are over, blah, blah, blah. I don't like you no more. Boom. Broken heart. So when we got to Washington, I continued to text her. Yep, you're probably thinking like, well, that's not the bright idea. But again, young kid, don't get too on me for that. But again, we texted for a few months, back and forth still. My young heart believed that what I was doing, what I was trying to do, hold on to her was the right thing to do. So weeks followed, and then the worst came. So let's just back up, right? Okay, things are going good with the girl. Things are changing. Things are going bad with the girl. And then I continue to hold on to her. And then this happens. Well, like weeks after, just texting and talking back and forth, right? Months after texting back and forth, I received a text message from her. And it was her and her new boyfriend. Yeah, and that one hurt a lot. That one broke me a lot because not only did I see her and her new boyfriend, but it was actually this guy that I had, met maybe a couple times. So that really stunk. And that broke my heart. So there was that. And well, I was crushed and I was younger then, but you could see the heartache that I was feeling and going through, right? You could see what I was seeing, and just putting yourself in that story, it does hurt. And even to this day, like, we'll get to that right here, but to this day, I can see the hurt that I was in back then. I'm not hurt from that no more, but I can see that I was hurt, I was angry, and I was crushed. So that's story number one. Let's go to story number two, right? So let's take a pause there and jump to another story. Well, in this one, these are all hitting home, guys. All right. Growing up, I was always at a friend's house. During elementary school and middle school, I noticed early on that most of their households had two parents in the house. I didn't think anything of it, but then pain started to creep in, and I asked the question, why weren't my parents together? Yeah, I don't know if you've ever felt that or ever had to go through that, but unfortunately I did. And it did bother me. It did bother me because I was questioning, why aren't my parents together? Why isn't my dad here? Why are my parents together? Why are my parents friends together? And, just why? I was trying to figure that out, right? I had a big question mark. And so I was asking those questions, right? Why isn't my dad here? I see my friends' dads often doing things with their kids, with their sons, and with their family. And for a young boy, for a young kid, that's super important. that's a whole different topic. And we might, that's a great topic to talk about. Just, the upbringing of kids and the impact you can make. But I started building resentment, not necessarily towards my parents, but just the situation I was in, right? I was hurt. I was angry. I was crushed. I was hurt because I saw my friends and their family, and I saw that two parents were in the household, and I saw that my friends, they had access to that, and their dad was available right then and there. Well, at the time, although my dad was a phone call away, it was hard not him being there physically. And so, I just didn't understand back then. So that made me hurt. I was angry at times, but I honestly felt crushed by it, especially when my friends would ask, where's your dad? And they would assume I didn't have one, but, I had to tell them the whole story and situation that my dad worked another job elsewhere, and I still communicated with him. He still came to visit, but it was just hard, not him being there all the time. So, all right. So that brings us to our last story, right? So if you can kind of see where we're going with this, I was crushed. I was angry. I was hurt. Growing up, last story. Sorry. More recently, I've been talking about a crush, right, that I've had on this girl that I met from work. I haven't updated you guys on that. But here's a little update here. Well, I told her how I felt. I told her how I felt. And maybe I did that a little too early. Possibly. But the feelings weren't reciprocated. And let's just jump back to that. I don't know how early is too early. I've never figured that part out. But what I can say and what I can do to defend myself is that I didn't want to be completely friend-zoned and then it eventually be too late. That I confess my love to her, I confess that I like her, and then I just get crushed even more. So I basically just rolled the dice and I said, hey, let me just let her know I like her. Not expecting anything in return, but just letting her know, right? Well, that might have had some negative things come along with it. So let's just continue on, right? So let's see here. So yeah, actually that wraps it up there, right? So now with that, I don't know how that affects our friendship going forward. I respect her a lot, 100%, but I did tell her that I like her. And again, the feelings weren't reciprocated, and we did go back and forth, and we talked as normal. But here more recently, it hasn't been normal the last few days. And I don't know if that's just because I scared her away or whatever, but I've dealt with overthinking a lot. But when I talk to my parents and I talk to my friends about it, there's nothing to be worried about. I know the kind of man I am. I know who God is. And I know that when the right thing does come, I won't have to question it. So there's that, right? And as long as I keep being a light and, again, being her friend as best I can, as best she allows me, and, I'm not going to try to overstep any boundaries or anything like that. So yeah, so that with all that, just not being able to get things back to normal, I was feeling a little bit hurt, feeling a little bit angry, and feeling a little bit crushed with that. All right, so now what, right? What do these stories have in common? And let's break it down. Okay, so the first story with Mary. Well, I was hurt by the actions of Mary, and my actions didn't support my heart. My actions weren't supporting what was good for me. It was actually tearing me down. I didn't add any good to the situation. Number two, with my parents, I was hurt by my parents' actions, right? If as an adult looking at it, and I've talked to my dad about this, and I've talked to my mom about this, and I'll get to that in a second, but I just didn't agree with things they did back then. But I held jealousy towards my friends because they had their parents in the same household, and I didn't. So that's there. Again, I was hurt by that. And I was hurt by my actions in the last situation with my crush, right? With my friend. All right. I was hurt by my actions and my expectations. And that's nothing on her. She's a great person, great girl. And, it's just the situation it was. All right. So I hope you guys enjoy the story. That's it for the podcast. No, I'm just kidding. So how did I overcome this, right? How do you overcome these situations? Sorry, my nose itches. Gosh, like there's like fuzzy things on here on the microphone that kind of tickle my nose. That's why my nose keeps itching. Anyways, sorry, going on different ends. But how do you overcome this stuff, right? I'm sure you know different situations in your life that you're hurt by things, you were crushed by things, and you were angry at things, right? Those three things, hurt, being angry, crushed, you can wrap them all into one. It stinks. It hurts. But how did I overcome this stuff? And how do you overcome that? And that's a question I was asking myself for a really long time. How do I overcome this? And can I overcome this? Well, it definitely took time and distance for sure. And what do I mean by that? Taking time to figure that out, right? You're not going to figure these things out in a day. You're not going to figure that out overnight. It's going to take time and distance. It's definitely going to take distance from the situation, that particular situation. If we jump back to that friend thing, right? Seeing my friends' parents together, how do I distance myself from that? Well, basically with that, it's distancing yourself from those thoughts. And that's 100% true. But this is a big one. But it also involved receiving forgiveness from God and forgiving myself, and in turn, forgiving my parents, my past relationships, and my actions. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is the key to overcome these things. It's true, right? So what happened after that? What happened after the Washington thing? Well, I remember I got down on my knees and I just talked to God. And I remember saying something along the lines like, God, I'm hurt. I'm hurting. This is awful. And I need you. I need you to remind me that I'm forgiven by you because of what Jesus has done on the cross for me, that I can live a new life through you. I need to be reminded of that. And God, forgive me for what I did in trying to hold on to this for so long. And Lord, I know you forgive me, so I forgive her. And that was a key to set me free from that. Same thing with my parents. God, I love my parents. I know you love my parents. I know you love me. I know you would never do anything to hurt me. I know my parents would never do anything to hurt me. God, this stinks. This is not what I think it should be. This is not what I want. But Lord, you're here. And I know that I'm going to be taken care of by you and by my family. And Lord, I forgive my parents because you've forgiven me. Right? And then the last one. So with her. Lord, I like her a lot. I think she's a great person. But I know that I might have jumped into things too fast. So I ask you to forgive me for trying to take the reins. And I also ask you to forgive me for trying to put somebody in a box that I want, and not necessarily waiting on your time. But Lord, you forgive me for that. You've forgiven me for that. And I with that situation, I don't know what she's feeling or what she's going through, but I have no right to have any resentment towards her or that situation. But I forgive anything that comes this way because I've been forgiven, and that's the only key to letting go of things is forgiveness. So that's why I titled this, guys. Let's talk about forgiveness. Where is something in your life that you haven't forgiven? Who is somebody in your life that you haven't forgiven? That old friend, that family member that you've cast away because they hurt you? Is it truly worth the pain and the hurt to hold resentment towards somebody? Is it true? Is that really true? Because I don't think so. I think it when you hold a grudge, when you hold something towards somebody, it hurts your heart so much, and it turns you into this really bitter person. And who are we to judge on who should be forgiven and who shouldn't? When ultimately, and I believe this wholeheartedly, and you might not believe, but I do, and I think it's a good way that if God's the one who has forgiven us, what right do we have to not forgive others? What right do we have to not forgive others? And I know it hurts. I know people have hurt you in the past. I know how that feels, right? To feel crushed, to feel hurt, to feel angry. But if you just hold on to those things for so long, you're going to be that exact same person. Just bitter. That's the hard truth. And the only way you can move forward from these things is truly forgiveness. Forgiveness. It starts with God. Then it goes whichever order. Forgiving yourself, and if you need to do that, forgive yourself. And then lastly, forgive others. And that's where freedom comes. Whew. Yeah, that's where freedom comes. For sure. For sure. Well, yeah, that was episode number 4 of BP Productions Podcast. I'm going to leave. I left you with a lot, guys, to think about. I left you with a lot to grapple with. And yeah, that was fun. That was fun talking about that. I'm not sure if you guys liked that kind of detail that I kind of gave and that kind of storyline that I was able to follow through with. But I really enjoyed it, and I'm super happy. So yeah, I get real emotional too, just because I care. I care about you guys. I care about what I say. I care what I put out here, and just want to share the truth, right? Sharing life, sharing stories, encouraging others. That's all I want to do. That's all I want to do. And if I could be a light in your life, I will definitely try to be my best to be that light. So I love you guys. Take care. I'm going to start adding something at the end. Be a light. That'll be our ending. Be a light, be a light, be a light. Forgiveness is important. Anyways, all right. Love you guys. YouTube.com, Instagram, Bruce, BRUCE.PINEDA. Give a like, give a subscription, comment down below. I want to hear from you guys. I love you, and I'll see you next week on episode number 5 of the BP Productions Podcast. Bye, guys.